Oh, good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 24th. My name's Dayna D, and I'm a recovered Al-Anon, and I will be leading this meeting. I'm finishing up for Christina. Her voice is still on the mend, so I have a voice, and I'm going to share it with you for an hour. So good evening. We want to welcome everyone to the Al-Anon Big Book Recovery Meeting. This is a step speaker meeting that meets every Wednesday night at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will study the 12 steps by using the precise instructions out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous as it relates to us Al-Anons. So let's get our meeting started. The original AA preamble written by the AA Grapevine describing the fellowship in This is the original AA preamble written by the AA Grapevine describing the fellowship in 1940. We study the preamble with an open mind and open heart to consider how it applies to Al-Anon. This helps us stay focused on the message of recovery the pioneers intended while observing the traditions in action. Through the actions taken out of the taken based on the instructions of the basic text, we comprehend what the pioneers meant when they described the membership of AA, which is that they worked a program of recovery and they no longer drank. In our case, we no longer obsess over the alcoholic. And through continuous action and study of these principles, the understanding of the value of the original preamble reveals itself. We ask for your humble consideration of our sincere admiration of the the pioneers of Alcoholics Anonymous, because without them, after all, the simple hope is that we of Al-Anon will grow into the same clarity and unity that birthed the original 12-step fellowship. Because without them, after all, none of us would be here. This is the original AA preamble. We are gathered here because we're faced with the fact that we are powerless over alcohol and unable to do anything about it without the help of a power greater than ourselves. We feel that each person's religious views, if any, are his own affair. The simple purpose of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is to show what may be done to enlist the aid of a power greater than ourselves, regardless of what our individual conception of that power may be. In order to form a habit of depending upon and referring all that we do to that power, we must first apply ourselves with some diligence. By often repeating these acts, they become habitual, and the help rendered becomes natural to us. We have come to know that as alcoholics, we suffer from a serious disease for which medicine has no cure. Our condition may be the result of an allergy, which makes us different from other people. It has never been permanently cured by any treatment with which we are familiar. The only relief we have to offer is absolute abstinence, the second meaning of AA. There are no dues or fees. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and each member squares his debt by helping others to recover. An alcoholic member is an alcoholic who, through the application of and adherence to the AA program, has forsworn the use of any and all alcoholic beverages in any form. The moment he takes so much as 1 drop of beer, wine, spirits, or any other liquid containing alcohol, he automatically loses all status as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. AA is not interested in sobering up drunks who are not sincere in their desire to stay sober for all time. Not being reformers, we offer our experience only to those who want it. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and on which we can join in harmonious action. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our program. Those who do not recover, or people who will not, or simply cannot give themselves to the simple program. Now, you may like our program, you may not, but the simple fact remains that it works, and we believe it's our only chance to recover. There is a vast amount of fun included in the AA fellowship. Some people might be shocked at our seemingly worldliness and levity, but just underneath there lies a deadly earnestness and a full realization that we must put first things first, and with each of us, the first thing is the solution to our alcoholic problem. To drink is to die. Faith must work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. In order to set the tone for the meeting, I ask that we bow our heads in a few moments of silent prayer and meditation, followed by the Serenity Prayer. Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not mine, be done. I wish to remind you that whatever is said at this meeting expresses our own individual opinion as of today and as of up to this moment. We do not speak for AA as a whole, and you're free to agree or disagree as you see fit. In fact, It is suggested that you pay no attention to anything which might not be reconciled with what is in the AA Big Book. If you don't have a big book, it's time you follow it. You bought one. Read it, study it, live with it, follow the directions in it, and learn what it means to be in AA. That's the end of the original AA preamble. And so a sponsor is anyone who's had a psychic change as a result of working the steps and has a willingness to work with others. For those looking for a sponsor to guide them through the steps, please stay tuned and have your pens ready to record phone numbers immediately after the meeting. And each Al-Anon group ought to be a spiritual entity having but one primary purpose, that of carrying the message to the Al-Anon who still suffers. This is our primary spiritual aim. Our job as a group is to provide people with a place to learn about and work the steps. It has been our experience that working the steps consistently provides us with a better, saner life. We consider all else to be an outside issue. This includes personal problems. The proper venue for sharing such problems is with a sponsor. This is, after all, where real recovery takes place and working the steps with a sponsor. And we're just so glad that we're all here, and we're all here because we're not all there. There will be a period of fellowship after the meeting. If you have questions, if you need a sponsor, if you need to check in or get current, if you want to discuss other literature, please stick around for the fellowship. That's going to be a better time for the subjects. So we are going to begin our steps. We are on, do we have 5 weeks? We do have 5 weeks. Okay. Yeah, we have one more week. Okay, so this is week number 4. There are 5 weeks. I don't know if Christina's going to pick up next week or not. Let's hope that she does, because she'll be feeling better. But we are on 10 through 12, and let's see here. Okay, so I guess we go straight into it. Okay, so up to this point, we have talked about what it means to be powerless over alcohol. We do not have the mental, let me back up, we do not have the physical allergy to alcohol, but we have the mental obsession. So if no one has said it as clearly as I will, it turns out that we are very similar to the alcoholic. We just don't have an alcohol issue. So take the body out, here I am having an unmanageable life, just like the alcoholic does. So that's the amazing thing. Unfortunately, I don't want to present it to folks. It's just a reality that there is a strong likelihood. Alcoholism is, they do see a genetic relation, and it is not uncommon for young ones. I don't want that to happen, but I will say it's not uncommon that young people of an alcoholic family will have a likelihood of doing one of two of the things of either being an alcoholic or an Al-Anon. That is not in the big book. That is purely by experience and therefore an opinion. It's not a guarantee. It's just I've heard in the rooms that that's pretty common. So you might say, oh, I'd much rather be an Al-Anon than I would an alcoholic. Yeah, would you? At least the thing about the Al-Anon is that we have our biggest battle is our brain, and that's a hard place to be inside our own heads. And there is in our powerlessness, there is an acceptance that comes and a realization. And it's very humbling. And it may not come immediately at step one, we can make a beginning, just based on knowing that our world is toast in step one. So we don't have to fully grasp it, but at some point, it'll come at different points of the steps. It might be at step 3 for folks. It might be step 1. It might be the 5th step. It might be amends. But at some point in our, quote, Al-Anon career, we will have a realization that we are contributing to alcoholism. And since we are on the later parts of the steps, I'm just going to hammer down pretty hard And again, alcoholism, it is not something we can control. It's not something we caused, and it's certainly not something that we can cure. However, we contribute. And that's why the pioneers felt like the best thing that you could do for your alcoholic loved one is to work these principles too. Because in our illness, we crave pointing at the sick person. We crave that sick person. Why do we crave that sick person? Because we get off on being the good one. I'm so sorry to tell you that, but I will say it bluntly, a mental masturbation in being the good one. And we're not saying good or bad. We're saying alcoholism impacts the family in a sick way. So if you're not there yet, we are all also very sympathetic. Alcoholism is very frustrating. It's demeaning. It's horrible. It's walking on eggshells. It's living with an alcoholic is not a fun thing. But we can be neutral and have our alcoholic loved ones in our space, and we can still have them around and be okay. And so we get hope when we realize life is kind of screwy. We get some hope by a recovered member, and we ask them to help us on our step 3. We do an inventory to get down to causes and conditions. We take that inventory in our step 5 with our sponsor. We're going to talk to them about it. We're going to learn things about ourselves in our step 6 and be ready to have those be removed. We're going to ask that they be removed in 7. In 8, we're going to make a list of people that we harmed as a result of living in self-will run riot. So that's very different than, somebody I offended. Or we call it harms. There is an element of harm, but it's literally, I'm approaching those for whom I harmed as a result of living in self-will run riot. Now, in my Al-Anon mind, I'm going to say, well, I never drove anyone drunk. I never killed a family drunk. I've never missed my child, this and that. I didn't show up and have a drunk-a-log and fight this person and go to prison and not remember it. I haven't harmed anybody. Do you understand why we like to partner up with alcoholics? Because there's the good one. I didn't go to prison. I didn't drive drunk and nearly kill, but I didn't do all that. Well, you're not an alcoholic. So let's look at you. Let's look at me. Because that's all we have control over. Not even our alcoholic child that we are meant to care for. We still can't control that. Nor the husband, nor spouse, the parent, the great uncle. We have as much control over that as, say, controlling the waves in an ocean. And those of us here found that we had to have a spiritual experience to be able to be okay with that. We had to have a spiritual experience to even begin to see that I'm contributing to this, that I played a role in choosing to partake in the drama of alcoholism. Does that mean I write them off? No. That would be harmful. Sometimes we do, if necessary, but we find a way to be a family member among the family, a community member among the community, a worker among workers. We can live a normal life. So, we made a list of the people that we harmed as a result of living a self-will run riot. That's our 8. And so what that means is everybody on my 4th step goes somewhere on my 8-step amends list. I approach these people, and now we talked about that last week, and now we're going to go into, people call these maintenance steps. I am pretty darn sure they're the word. I think there is maintain, but that's not what this is. So let's not associate that word with step 10, 11, and 12, because that's not really the case. We don't maintain. We continue to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Now, it's very important that we address all of them in the same manner. So I'm looking in my kitchen and I see, I'm looking at my 3-pronged little stool over there. If one leg is shorter than the other, say I'm not doing my 10 steps, but I'm doing my 10 and 12, I'm going to be off balance. I am meant to, in order to grow in understanding and effectiveness, I'm going to do all of them in an equal manner. So let's dive into step 10. On page 84, it tells us that this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. That is the clue that we don't finish all of the amends before we go to 10. So that idea that we introduce step 10 immediately. And I want to back up here that it does say, where is it? For painstaking, there's a reason why I want to do this. It does say at some point, I'm going to jump, that these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. So there is a part, and I'm not seeing it. I will stumble upon it. My book is so marked up. But, oh, here it is. Okay, so if we're painstaking about this phase of our development, we're going to be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness, and we're not going to regret the door. We're not going to regret the past and we'll shut the door on it. So that's going into the 9th-step promises. But as soon as we make, and I'm reading step 9 to make it clear that as soon as we make our first amend, we have recovered and been given the power to help others. We have joined the first 100 recovered Al-Anons. So congratulations. Congratulations. There's a couple of points we want to say good job. One is you took your 3rd step. Good job. I mean, I know I'm all over the place, but that's one of those, you with your new person, you want to give them a hug. You asked for help. When you ask for help, there's some level of acceptance of your situation. How many of us, for so long, did not ask for help? Because I've got this, I'm not weak, or maybe my Al-Anon thinking said, I'm not the one with the problem. I don't need to ask for help. He does. That's the great obsession. How am I going to get him to get a sponsor? Instead, and I'm just using him as an example. It can be him, her, whatever. I'm just using from my own experience. I wanted him to get sober. And the thought of letting him go to work on myself caused so much anxiety. Because you know why? I wanted to watch him. because I thought I could control him. And I thought I could control his drinking. So when we ask for help, there's an element of going, man, I'm lost. Can you help me? Me. Not him. Me. And so I guess my point on that step 3 is a big deal. All the steps are equally powerful and big deal. But that step 3, give your prospect a good job. You kind of forget, it's been what? Oh gosh, I think I'm working on 13. I don't know. 11. Yeah. Sometimes we forget how hard it is to ask for help. And as it worked out for me, I probably never would have asked my sponsor to help me. She was too intimidating to me. Instead, I was referred to her. And I'm glad, because she was so scary. There's no way in hell I would ever stop this person and say, will you help me? But that's how that turned out. And it was the right thing to do. So, and doing our of course, the actions of getting our 4th step down and doing a 5th step, add a girl, add a boy, that's a good thing to do. And then, step 6 and 7, is really kind of a blur, but it's really just coming off of this, on this inventory and recommitting. But once again, this jumping over 8, 9, making an amend, you've recovered and you've been given the power to help others. May not feel that way, or it may. But that is why we go on and introduce step 10, because they're going to continue to make amends. And the thought that you finish all of those, I harmed many people living in self-will run riot. So there's no way that I could ever finish every amend and prior to doing step 10, because I will probably be, cleaning up the past until I leave this planet. There are store clerks that I don't remember. I don't know their names. I remember location, but I don't know their names. What if I ran into them? I've been, working these principles, working on 13 years. It's been, this is the 13th year. October will be 13. But, so it's been 12. But the idea that, so as I've gone along, there have been people I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this person. I mean, that was like, 10 years down the line. Like, oh, I remember I lied and got my neighbor in trouble as a little kid, and I lied about them on the, that they tore the trampoline. It was actually me. These are things I forgot. So that idea, once again, what I'm honing in on is that we don't have to finish every amend. In fact, it's better not, we're not supposed to, because it tells us in the book that we vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So we've entered the world of the spirit, and our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. So when we talk about the spirit, it means that I'm understanding that this is my greatest investment, this realm of the spirit, because I've been living in a way up to this point where my spirit is restless and irritable and discontented. So, it's kind of one of those things. In our natural state, we're perfect. And we also have lessons to learn, and our families are the perfect ones to create that for us with our Creator. But we also adjust to the human nature in ways to make us feel safe, ways to be heard or not be heard. And so our spirit adjusts to that and adjusts with discrepancies in our upbringing as a way to make us feel better. And at some point, those discrepancies no longer work. And so I'm going to have to shift the spirit because my everything is revolved around it. And there's things that I've inherited. There's things that I can't consciously see on my own. But my spirit, because I'm unhappy, it is no longer adjusted to the flow of life. It's fighting against it. And so I'm going to begin to live in that manner. So what does that mean? It means that I'm going to have a new employer. It means that my priorities are different. Today, my priorities are my spirit. Now, sometimes I think, gosh, I'd be so happier if I had an extra $1 million in the bank, things like that. And having financial wealth is not a bad thing. But the point is that, we live in the realm of the spirit. And that is our greatest investment. And it's through doing these actions that our spirit grows and thrives. So in other words, my greatest investment is doing the next right thing in this book. And it says our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. And it's not an overnight matter, and this is going to continue. This should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And when we watch for those, it's not to say you're a bad person, like bad. It's just to look at where are my distortions coming back from this old story that is no longer useful. It's no longer relevant. Because believe me, we do go back to that. We do go back. It's a nostalgic thing in ways that we may not even be conscious of, going back to old ways of survival, old ways of ease and comfort. Now, we don't, and when I say we go back to them, in just a smidget, but as we are sane in these principles, we won't dive back into it because our obsession becomes reduced. Because prior it was loud, very loud, took over everything. We couldn't decipher the truth from the false. As we recover, that obsession becomes smaller. And when the old things come up, like selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, believe me, the holidays are usually the time for me where these things really come up. And it's usually because my family system and I are very different. Very different. And I want to accommodate and share a family traditions with them. But these are often people that have no idea what I have to do to stay sane. That's okay. They don't have to. But sometimes it's lonely, and then the old stuff comes up again. The old ways of feeling ease and comfort and finding relevancy. And it's just but today it's not, I don't have to dive into it and move here or buy this. I don't have to do that today. I know that it's like, oh, there's those old things again. Oh yeah, they're up again. That is a difference of them coming up again and going, all right, I'm going to hand this to God and I'm going to go help somebody. That's very different than diving in, in the delusion that I can control all of this and I can change all of it. And the delusion that if someone just does X, Y, and Z, that I will be happy. When that happens, I have left the program, and the obsession fills the brain again. Because what I want is the obsession to shrink. There is nothing more exciting when you can be the observer of your own BS. Where you go, oh yeah, there I am again. And just go, oh, there's me and my little ego again. But not to dive in and go all in. Now, we always need to be applying these principles because we are guaranteed if we don't, we're going to dive in the deep end and it will become our reality. And do you want that reality? I don't. I do not want my reality prior, the reality that was prominent the day before I dove into recovery, because it was horrible. I was trying to please everybody, trying to find happiness through all these other means that people told me, and it was usually an attempt to get something from someone as a way to make myself feel better. And gossiping left and right, people pleasing left and right, stepping on people's heads left and right. I don't want to go back there. Am I capable of having those moments where I go, I am so mad right now, and I go, Dayna, there you are again. You're just, settle down. Things just aren't going the way you want. Or are there times that I go, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to pay my bill. I mean, do fears come up? Yes. And does that mean that I dive? No. So they come up. We have a method for this. So we don't get into recovery and then, have to white knuckle being a Mother Teresa of some sorts, because we're human. But these can and are lifted. And it says that when these crop up, we ask, there are actually 5 parts to a step 10. This is really important. A lot of times people mix up 10 and 11. They think that 10 is what you do in the evening, and it's important to go, no, this is actually throughout the day. And I know when I sponsor Al-Anons, it's really important for the new person to understand we don't get to do what we used to do. We don't get to do the screaming fights and go, I hate you, you blankety blank, I hope you die. We don't get to do that anymore. We don't live like that anymore. Are there times we want to? Maybe. But we don't get to live like that anymore. The screaming, the fights, we don't. So, and that's what a 10-step is for. And that is what they call the sacred pause. So before, and believe me, I've done it before. I have been driving and my little anger fit comes up before I have an opportunity to 10-step. So it's not as if it doesn't happen from time to time. But in general, when we get real riled up about something, take a pause. And we reach, and this is what we do with it. 1, when these crop up, sorry, I messed up. Let me back up. We continue to watch for it. So, oops, I'm angry. Or oops, I am so stressed. Probably some fear. So identify it. Okay, what are you afraid of? I'm afraid I'm not going to make it. I'm afraid, I'm afraid I'm going to get fired. I'm afraid I'm going to go broke. I'm afraid I'm going to go hungry. That's kind of a lot in a 10-step, but, it's just an example. All right, so it crops up. I'm going to identify it. I am in so much fear. Why am I in fear? I was told that, we're having layoffs, for example. So when they crop up, I identify it. I'm in fear. 2, I ask God to remove it. I ask God to remove them. So I'm checking in with this power that I got tapped into. We discussed them with someone immediately and make amends. Okay, so we discuss them with someone immediately. That's going to be your sponsor. And it depends on your sponsorship. My sponsor, if I can get a hold of her, talk to her sponsor. Or, sometimes I do. She's recommended people in the program. If I can't get a hold of her, I'll talk with her. But most of the time I'm talking to my sponsor. Because there's a little thing I know that I was guilty of as an Al-Anon is calling people who are going to support me and tell me what I want them to say. So, and at step 10, if we have harmed someone, and I will use an example, one time, this is when I first recovered, and first recovered, you're figuring out this new way of living. And I was at the bank, and I yelled at the bank teller, or I was real snarky or rude or something. And this was the first time I understood this one, because I didn't have time. I knew immediately that I harmed her. And I sent a text to my sponsor. I didn't have time to call her, but I knew that I had harmed this person, and I actually got out of my car, knocked on the bank door, and said, "Hey, can I talk with you?" And I made an amend right there. Like, I was really rude. And this was very selfish and dishonest of me, and I regret it and like to know what I can do to make it right. And then this 5th part is very important. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. Do you notice that they don't say love and the intention of changing others is our code? No tolerance. So when I'm approaching with love and tolerance, that means that I do not have an intention to change anyone. And that, my friends, is freedom. And why am I not trying to change someone? Because I know that they're on their journey with God. And that alcoholic loved one who was in a horrible mood, said ugly things in a bender. At this point, I'm starting to heal my heart and understand that this is part of alcoholism. Does it mean I'm a doormat? No. But does it mean that I can be around that mood and not take it personally nor try to change it? Yes. Is it still hurtful? Yes, because it's ugly. And, do I want to be around that person when they're drunk? No. But if I stumble upon them, I can be okay. I can go, oh, looks like they've had a flare up, and I'm gonna step out, and I can do that without being upset. Would I be upset with someone? I have a friend that has migraines really bad, and we make plans, and I make plans with the understanding that she's possibly going to cancel because she has them that badly. And I just understand that with my friendship, that is the caveat maybe is that we'll make plans, but she might not be feeling well. So they might be canceled. And I don't take that personally. Is it kind of challenging? Yeah. All right, well then get a different friend. Well, her friendships Awesome. I just understand that point of it. That's part of acceptance. And we can do that with our alcoholic loved one too. Do I want to be around this person when they're, no. But I still have a relationship and I still am bound to them by blood. And I know that this is part of my relationship with them. And I can certainly say, not tonight. I'm going to go home. But I can still love them. Because love and tolerance is our code. All right. There's a slew of great promises, but I'm going to jump on to 11 because of time. They tell us that it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We're headed for trouble if we do. For alcohol, Al-Anon is a subtle foe. We're not cured of Al-Anonism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day which we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our actions. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These thoughts which must go with us constantly. These are the thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It's a proper use of the will. Did you notice that we get our willpower back? But when I get it back, it's through God. And it is easy to rest on our laurels. And that's exactly why we don't receive things, believe it or not. I can tell you the things that I wanted in life. Did I receive what I wanted? No, but I received what I needed until I grew in understanding and effectiveness to realize that what I needed is really what I wanted the entire time. And so if I had received the picture that I wanted, I can promise you I probably would have said, I don't need to do this 12-step stuff. I have the bank. I have the guy. I've got the body. I'm good. So the thing is, whatever you're struggling with, it usually comes down to relationships and money and our health. The thing is if we received everything we wanted, we do receive. Like I said, I received what I needed, which is really what I wanted. But we do receive things in God's timing, and we receive them when God knows that we're not going to grab it and go, thank you, mine, because we will lose it. What we put above our program is exactly what we're going to lose. So to those out there that have been doing things and you're looking at people in program going, gosh, look at all these great things they've received. You will too. It just might be that you're of the variety that God's like, I'm going to let this person work for it a little bit. Because knowing her, as soon as she gets that great relationship, she's going to go, I'm done, guys. I'm cured. I got a man to be my God. Or I won the lotto. I'm good. I don't need to waste my time doing 12-step stuff because I'm a millionaire. Yeah. This is how God keeps us humble. So that we're in the nature of, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. And it's through this that we do get our will back. In the areas where we're supposed to go and things we're supposed to do, God will bring us the energy and the focus and the drive to do it. So our job is just to do the next right thing and let God handle the results. And much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If we carefully follow these directions, we've begun to sense the flow of the Spirit into us. To some extent, we become God conscious. We've begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. So step 11 suggests prayer and meditation, and we shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly, and it works if we have the proper attitude. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can offer some definite and valuable suggestions. So we have retire at night, we have on awakening, and thinking throughout our day. And they have specific directions. I'll let you study those on your own on page 86. But it's just like any type of relationship. If I don't spend time, I'm going to lose that relationship. So it's a good thing to spend time with your Creator. Not a good thing, it's a necessary thing. And I'm often asked about my meditation, and, you know, it's evolved throughout the years. There were times when my meditation was literally reading these pages, 84 to 102 every morning. There were times when it was reading meditation. And these days I'm literally clearing my mind and breathing and spending time to get connected to my Creator, and they do talk about the great reality within us. And that is to prepare for the world that it tends to be selfish. It tells us that on awakening, we think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask that God direct our thinking, especially that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. So, self-pity, poor, pitiful me, dishonest, and self-seeking. Self-seeking is another way of playing roles, like the martyr or the victim or the savior. It's also a playing God as a way to make myself feel better. And when we talk about the wrong motive, we talk about the wrong motive is what can I give rather than what can I get. And, the question is when people say, I don't know how to meditate. And, the response is, well, do you know how to obsess and worry about an alcoholic? All right. Well, now you know how to focus on God. Because if I don't grow, I will go. So take some time and sit with your Creator on the daily. So, we usually conclude a period of meditation and prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We especially ask for freedom for self-will and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. We pause when we're agitated and ask for the right thought or action. So that's why we don't get to scream at our families anymore. Do we fall short? Yes. But we remind ourselves that we're no longer running the show and humbly say to ourselves many times each day, thy will, not mine, be done. We are then in much less danger of excitement and fear and anger and worry and self-pity, which does what? Turns into foolish decisions. It works. It really works. We Al-Anons are undisciplined. And, it's so interesting because an Al-Anon might be like, but I'm the one that keeps the family together. Actually, Al-Anons are tend to be, an opinion here, very organized, especially when we are the hall monitors of people's behaviors. But where we're undisciplined comes down to the people pleasing and the just taking care of things to make, things go the way we want, slipping into the selfish motives and the people pleasing and the controlling, the snooping, the gossip as a way to make ourselves feel better. We're not very disciplined in that way. So we let God discipline us in the simple way we have outlined. But that's not all. There's more action. There's action and more action. Faith without works is dead. And the next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. So, what does our step 12 tell us? So I didn't read the steps. Let me do that really quick. Step 10 was that we continued to take personal inventory when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Now 12, there's 3 parts to it. Well, first part is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. So this is not a spiritual awakening as a result of doing a workbook, doing the steps. And what they're talking about the steps in this book. So I probably want to do what's in this book, don't I? We tried to carry this message to other Al-Anons and to practice these principles in all our affairs. We don't get to do the screaming fights anymore. We don't. Do we fall short? Yes. But we don't get to do that. And our family members might notice that. Again, going back to how our spirit was, they might be used to our fighting, engaging, I do this and she responds like this, and they do notice when we go, I'm sorry you feel that way. And I take a pause and I walk out. So, working with others, there's parts that it goes into. There are a couple of moods. I'm going to try to sum up this chapter. The first page is really going to make it clear that this is how we stay immune from our obsessive thinking, is carrying this message to other Al-Anons. And it's stop talking from we to you. You're going to see a lot of you. And then on the next page, it's going to go into how to approach. And it tells us that you get the idea of we're talking about how to approach someone, a prospect. They do say that if he does not want to stop, don't waste your time to persuade him, because you might spoil later opportunities. So don't waste your time. But you also want to get an idea. You want to talk with people to see if they're interested, to get an idea of their background, to see how you would want to be approached. And then it goes into how to work with the family. And ultimately, you'll find on 91 that we want to leave the family out. So we can get some details, but ultimately we do better when it's just one-on-one. And then it's going to go into the 4 different types of moods. And we're going to learn that when you suffer the greatest is only when we will be willing to never do what we used to do again. So let's not save people from that. And I'm going to close up here. We're going to tell about our experiences to encourage them to talk about themselves. If they're not communicative, we're going to give them we're going to talk about our own Al-Anon career. It does say do not say anything for the moment how that was accomplished. We want them to ask. So let's not tell them, I'm a part of this group and I do this. Let's share about yourself, but let them ask you what you did. They tell us if the mood is serious. Talk about the troubles. If he's light, share some humorous things as well. And it's important for us to present to the new person that we are qualified. And that is why we want to share our experience, but also our knowledge of the Big Book and the illness. But it says very clearly, let him, on page 93, let him ask you the question, if he will. Let him ask you how you got well. Don't throw it in his face, because you might ruin the opportunity. It talks about when a prospect with religion. On 94, it talks about outlining the program. It talks about when he's not interested. It talks about the second visit. Let's see. It will go into spouses. The wife should understand his new way. There's a promise, and I will stop with this. Follow the dictates. This is a reference to our sponsors. Both you and the new man, us and people we sponsor and our sponsor as well. You and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. When we look back, we will realize the things which came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. Isn't that nice? Okay, let's close our meeting. Oh, did I miss some things? Okay, I think I missed some things. Sorry about that. Our 7th tradition, I think I skipped over some things sorry about that. But our 7th tradition, every group ought to be fully self-supporting, decline outside contributions. This group does not have a payment structure in place and currently requires no overhead expenses. If you would like to fulfill Tradition 7, please direct your contributions directly to the Al-Anon World Service office by visiting alanon.org. If you have questions about the meeting or if you're looking for a sponsor, please send emails to alanonbigbookrecovery@gmail.com. Recordings can be accessed on YouTube by searching at Al-Anon Step Speaker in the YouTube search box. That's great. And if you're interested in other Al-Anon meetings that follow the Big Book, please visit alanonbigbooksolutiongroup.org. Oh, I just lost it. Oh, crud. Hold on a second. Why did you disappear? Okay. In reading from the Big Book, page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who's still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely what you find, and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you drudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Now, let's have a moment of silence for the Al-Anon who still suffers, followed by the Lord's Prayer or a prayer of your own choosing, said in silence. So who loves us and keeps us sane? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Okay, we're going to stop the recording here.